So for this video, we thought it would be a pretty cool idea to just go back and take a nice little stroll down memory lane and take a look back at some of our earliest works. So everybody starts somewhere, guys. I certainly was not the best one just first starting out, and one question that we get asked all the time is, how long did it take you to become a professional, or how long did it take you to get good at this? And believe me, these pairs that you're going to see in today's video are not good by any means, but everybody starts somewhere, and that is the most important thing, just starting. So when I first got the idea for customizing sneakers, I was in my second year of college. I was going to architecture school, and I had saw some other people online painting shoes, and just being a longtime sneakerhead myself, I thought it'd be a pretty cool idea, so I decided to give it a go. And this was over 8 years ago, the fall of 2011, and here with this first picture, this was the first shoe I ever painted, a Jordan 6 done in the South Beach colorway, and this is a really interesting pair to look back on. Obviously, you can see this was shot on my drafting board in college, and the idea is okay that I was trying to capture it near a window with some natural lighting, but absolutely nothing is in focus here. This was actually before I even had my first iPhone, so composition is totally off. You can see a lot of pens, pencils in the background. There's a pair of sunglasses there for some reason, so the composition is pretty bad, and not to even mention that absolutely nothing is in focus here. But a few more little funny tidbits about this first pair. I didn't even prep these. I didn't even acetone off the factory finish. There was one video on YouTube back in 2011 on how to customize shoes, and I very specifically remember the guy saying, look, if you don't take the time to do the prep work, you're gonna end up wearing this pair of painted shoes, and as soon as you start walking down the street, paint is going to be chipping off. And I said, oh no, not me, that'll never happen. I'll just paint them well and I'm sure they'll hold up fine. But I couldn't really be more wrong, as prep is definitely the most important thing when it comes to creating wearable art. So I actually just painted these with cheap acrylic paint that I was able to buy from Michael's, and I remember that I wasn't able to get this hot pink to pop on the midsole, so what I ultimately ended up doing, don't ever do this guys, is I said, what kind of paint am I going to get to pop on here? So I decided to go and buy some latex paint. This is what we use to paint on wood during some projects in college. This is also what you use to paint on your drywall at home. So I actually ended up painting the midsole of these with latex paint. So that's a wild story to look back on, just being oblivious and being blind to taking the proper methods to doing things right, and just kind of taking shortcuts and wanting to get to the job as soon as possible without taking those proper precautions. Nonetheless, after completing that pair, I remember posting them to Instagram and Facebook, and shortly after, for some reason, people still wanted me to create some custom pairs for them. So when I was first starting to get orders for more custom sneakers, what we were doing back then, it was by far the most popular thing, was recreating colorways from very exclusive shoes. So you can see here, we have a couple pairs of Jordan 6s done in different Nike Air Yeezy 1 colorways, and then I also have a pair of the Blink Yeezys in the photo. This was taken in my parents' kitchen up against the pantry door, and you can see again the composition of this photo itself. It's just absolutely horrid. There's also some Instagram filters thrown on here with some of that blur and other things like that, and I just have absolutely no idea what I was thinking. I have no explanation for this, guys. So after working on a few pairs of custom shoes for myself and other people during my second year of school, I decided that summer I was really going to focus on the business and try to build a business out of this and just see where we could take it. So one of the first orders of that summer that I got was for a pair of Tiffany Jordan 3s. And so these were meant to be inspired by the Nike SB Tiffany's. Thankfully I had a pair of those, so I was able to use them in the photo set for this pair. Things are starting to get a little bit better as we're trying to use some natural outdoor lighting, but again, composition is terrible on these. This was shot with my iPhone, but the lighting is just save me from myself, guys. If you look at the cement print and the piping where any of the panels meet, there is a lot left to be desired here. But it's funny to look at now, especially with all these years of experience looking back on works like this, and you could really tell where you went wrong, what things you didn't pay attention to, especially now with our reviewing your custom series. If any of these pairs were featured on here, they would be torn up pretty harshly, that's for sure. So here you can see we have a What the Dunk inspired Jordan 3, and the concept is really cool, but it's all about execution also. And the first thing that I notice now looking at these is that tweed pattern that's done on the right shoe toe box. Thankfully, I have gotten a lot better at pulling straight lines, and thankfully, we discovered the toothpick method, which would really help if I was doing this again, but Man, oh man, those lines, guys, those need some work, that is for sure. I also can't help but look back at pairs like this and really want to try to recreate them today and just show how much better I could do this. This is probably 6 years ago now, so I think that we could do a lot better, because this is a really cool concept of, I'll always have an affection for recreating really iconic colorways onto different sneakers. So in this case, taking one of the most iconic SBs and redoing it on a Jordan. I would love to do this again today. So now here we have our Jordan 3 3Z pack, and a pretty funny story about this photo itself is this was the first time where we had all 3 of those original Nike Yeezy colorways done on some Jordan 3s. I remember taking this photo, posting it, and it got a lot of buzz, and what's funny about it is Sneaker News on Instagram, this photo's from probably 6 years ago or so, they took this photo and completely photoshopped out the background, everything, the watermark, and just had a completely blacked out background, and they posted it on their Instagram. They still tagged us, but they removed the watermarks. It's funny because these watermarks, that was a phase that I went through of trying to watermark everything. It's just so detrimental to the photo. It looks so bad that it's funny they actually decided we can't post this with the watermark because it's so bad that we're just gonna go ahead, not even ask for permission, just redo the background and still tag us. So thankfully they did that. That got us a lot of followers and press, but it's just so funny looking back at some pretty poor decisions that were made back then. So now we're looking at what I remember calling at the time the What the DeJesus Jordan 5. I remember saying I was only gonna make 5 pairs of these. So the left shoe features all of the Dornbacher Jordans that were released up to this point. And then the right shoe features a lot of super popular colorways at the time. We have the Tokyo Jordan 5, the Eminem Jordan 2s, Myro 7s, and the Dave White Jordan 1 print on the toe box. And look at how rough that Dave White patterning is. All of those squiggly lines done in gold with some pretty rough looking stars. This is another one of those pairs that I would love to redo at this point. But this just shows you guys that nothing happens overnight. It's all about repetition over a long period of time with a ton of hours put in, and you'll be able to get there one day. So now we have the first pair of cleats that I did that were worn in an NFL game. These were from Mike Neal, who was on the Packers at the time, and the gradient on these leaves a lot to be desired. This is one that I really wish that I could redo. That gradient is really rough. One thing that I always like to say about gradients is you want to be able to look at the shoe as a whole and not be able to tell where it starts or stops. And this one has a very obvious meeting point for yellow to green. That's 2 colors that are pretty tough to blend together evenly, but this is a pretty poor job of that. Now we have the first pair that we made for our buddy Eric Ebron. This was a Optimus Prime inspired pair of cleats that we did. We still wanted them to have the Lions colorway, but we still wanted an Optimus Prime theme. So I remember drawing these flames on the toe box for probably like 3 to 5 hours, just drawing out how they were gonna blend into the rest of this shoe. And this is one that I wish I could redo also. There's not enough separation of the flames on the toe box to the rest of that steel kind of pattern print that we're going for on the rest of the shoe. So we need some shading behind those flames to make them seem like they're on top of the steel and just create a little bit more separation. Those, the line work of the flames itself, the curves and whatnot, those all could definitely use some reshaping, but this is awesome to look back on. The first pair that I did for him, and we've done a lot since. So hopefully you guys enjoyed taking a look back at some of our old works. Obviously what you guys are seeing now is a little bit more of a polished product from us, rather than seeing the entire journey of all these years it took to get to this point. So although the artwork itself has absolutely improved over all these years, one thing that I think has improved just as much, if not more, is the photos themselves and the delivery of this product to the audience. So hopefully anybody just starting out or anybody else who's in the middle of their journey can see just that it is a journey, that all of this, even what you're seeing from us now, isn't even what I would consider a finished product. There's still a lot of room for us to improve here also. So no matter what, guys, don't get discouraged. Even if you go ahead and take a look at our page and try to compare yourself to that or even another artist, none of this happens overnight. No matter where you are in your journey, there's still room for improvement. So you just can't give up. You gotta keep going. So we just want to thank you guys immensely for following along with us here on our journey. And also don't forget, all of the Christmas contest submissions are going to be due Friday, December 13th. Really looking forward to that. Can't wait to see what you guys cook up. So stay tuned for a little bit more on that, and we'll see you guys in that next video.